The sun was setting on the small town of Everbrook, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. Quiet, peaceful, at least it appeared that way. But there was something off today. Something the town hadn't experienced in years. Detective Clara Jensen walked into the station, her boots echoing on the polished floor. The atmosphere was heavy, tense. Her eyes caught the face of Officer Collins, pale and shaken. He was usually the one who kept things under control. But not today. "Detective," he said, his voice cracking, "we've got a situation." "What is it?" Clara asked, her hand already resting on the doorframe. "It's Harrison Mills. He's missing." Clara's stomach churned. Harrison Mills wasn't just anyone. He was the town's mayor, the man who had been leading Everbrook with a steady hand for over 2 decades. If he was missing, the entire town was in trouble. "When did he go missing?" Clara asked. "Around 3 p.m., I believe. His wife, Linda, said he went out for a walk in the woods behind their house. She hasn't heard from him since." "Did anyone else see him leave?" Collins shook his head. "Not that we know of. We're trying to find any witnesses now." Clara exhaled slowly, thoughts racing. The woods were vast, dense, and treacherous. People got lost there all the time. But something told her this wasn't just a simple case of a man wandering off track. "Where do we start?" she asked. "I've already organized a search party. But we need you to talk to Linda, see if she remembers anything else," Collins replied. Clara nodded, heading for the door. "I'll go right now." The Mills house was eerily quiet when Clara arrived. Linda, Harrison's wife, was sitting on the porch, staring blankly into the distance. Her hands shook as she clutched a cup of tea, but her eyes were dry, almost as if she had cried out every tear already. "Mrs. Mills?" Clara asked softly. Linda looked up, blinking as if waking from a trance. "Detective. I'm sorry about your husband. We're going to find him. Can you tell me anything about his last walk? Did he seem strange, or maybe say anything unusual?" Linda shook her head slowly. "No. Nothing unusual. He said he was just going for a walk to clear his head. He wasn't upset, nothing like that." Clara pressed on. "Did he mention which direction he was heading in?" "Out toward the north end of the woods. He always went that way," Linda answered, her voice distant, lost in thought. Clara stood up, walking toward the edge of the porch, looking into the darkening forest. "And he didn't take anything with him? No phone, no jacket?" "No," Linda whispered, shaking her head again. "Nothing." Clara's mind started to form a picture. The north end of the woods was known for being the least explored, dense, wild, unwelcoming. It was the perfect place for someone to disappear without a trace. "Did Harrison ever talk about anyone unusual?" Clara asked. "Anyone who might have had a reason to harm him?" Linda looked away, her face pale. "No. Not that I know of." But Clara didn't miss the way Linda's eyes shifted. There was something she wasn't saying. The search party scoured the woods for hours, calling out Harrison's name, but the forest swallowed their voices. It was only when the sun finally dipped below the horizon that Clara noticed something strange. A set of footprints, slightly out of place. They led toward a secluded area she hadn't noticed before. Clara motioned for a couple of officers to follow her, the weight of something dark settling in her chest. She followed the prints deeper into the trees until they stopped in front of an old, decaying cabin. This is new," one of the officers said, eyeing the cabin suspiciously. Clara's instincts screamed that this was where they'd find the truth. The truth about why Harrison Mills had gone missing. She stepped toward the door and knocked 3 times. A voice called from inside, gruff and low, "Who's there?" "He went that way," Clara said, pointing to the woods.